Hey movie buffs, I'm Jack Benner and welcome to my first review of 2023 with Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Puss in Boots: The Last Wish is the sequel to 2011's Puss in Boots from DreamWorks Animation. In Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, Puss in Boots, as always voiced by Antonio Banderas, is down to his ninth and final life after his many adventures. After he comes out of retirement, he goes on a journey to find the last wish and restore his 9 lives with many other characters after the last wish. Now, since Puss in Boots is part of the Shrek franchise, I would like to give a recap and my thoughts on the Shrek films, as well as the first Puss in Boots film, starting with the first Shrek film from 2001. Great start to the franchise and a massive hit for DreamWorks. Hilarious, quotable, heartfelt, pitch-perfect voice cast, and it was a fun spin on the fairy tale genre. And Shrek 2, that is not only my favorite DreamWorks film of the 2000s decade, but one of my favorite animated sequels of all time, and definitely one of the funniest movies I've ever seen. It was funnier than the first, great new additions, expanded the world building, and also the climax with I Need a Hero. Need I say any more? That being said, Shrek the Third. Compared to the greatness of its 2 predecessors, that one was just so inferior. It was not as funny, it was slower and less energetic, and overall, that was just a dull sequel. And that is still to date the worst film in the Shrek franchise. But Shrek Forever After, while I don't think it's as good as the first 2 Shrek films, I find that to be a solid and underrated conclusion to the Shrek franchise. And I definitely think that movie made up for the mistakes of the third film. And a year after Shrek Forever After, we had a spin-off film, Puss in Boots, which I found to be an entertaining spin-off film that was good on its own, and I felt like it did exactly what a good spin-off should do, made the character still entertaining on his own without him overstaying his welcome. And to me, I've always felt like Puss in Boots worked better for spin-off films than Donkey, because Donkey is a comic relief character that I felt like would overstay his welcome and just overdoing with his humor. And luckily they never did that with Puss in Boots in his solo film. And I was very curious when I heard a sequel was announced. I was a little worried since it's been 10 years since the first movie, it would be too late to be coming out. And I would be fine with the franchise ending at Shrek Forever After and Puss in Boots. And when the trailer came out, it looked alright, not bad. I was surprised with the different animation style, this 2D animation style, kind of like Spider-Verse. And my worries for this sequel were still intact. Then, I was surprised when I heard this movie was getting great and very positive reviews, even topping a 95% on Rotten Tomatoes, to which I did not expect the film to get that high of a score. And hearing the rave reviews made me look forward to this movie even more. And I saw Puss in Boots 2 in theaters a few weeks ago. My review is here. What are my thoughts? Just when I thought this would be an unnecessary and cash grab sequel, too late to be coming out 10 years after the first movie, I am ready to eat my words now because this was freaking fantastic. It really does live up to the hype. Puss in Boots 2 is really that great. Definitely the biggest and most pleasant surprise of 2022. And I honestly think this is some of DreamWorks' best since the How to Train Your Dragon sequels. Let's start with the pros. To start things off, it's a refreshing change of pace with the Spider-Verse 2D influence of animation compared to the photorealistic animation of its predecessor. It enhances the energy and entertainment value by being colorful, vibrant, stylistic, brisk, and innovative, from the stunning backgrounds, well-crafted action scenes, and attention to detail. After the bad guys, I'm glad that DreamWorks Animation is approaching this animation style, making it unique and entertaining to watch, and I think it works here as a phenomenal contribution to the film. Next, the voice cast and characters in this movie are all great. I've always loved Antonio Banderas as the voice of Puss in Boots ever since this character's debut in Shrek 2. Returning to Puss in Boots after a decade, it's like he never left the role and he's clearly enjoying every minute of it. He does have the humor, charisma, and energy intact, but I love that we got to see the more fragile and vulnerable side to Puss this time. And how he clearly loves being adventurous and his acts of heroism, especially in the great opening scene with a great musical number and an action scene with this giant. But when he's down to his last and 9th life, he actually starts showing fear and anxiety, realizing he could die and facing death. And I think Banderas really nailed that aspect of the character. Salma Hayek returns as Kitty Softballs from the first film, and I liked her more in the sequel than in the first film. Found her more entertaining with her and Puss's dynamic. She was funnier and has a good character arc. As for the new additions, we have Florence Pugh as Goldilocks, along with Ray Winstone and Olivia Colman as Mama and Papa Bear. All were great new additions, being very funny and having an entertaining dynamic with each other, and I even found Goldilocks' story and character arc heartfelt. And one character I was worried about from the trailers was a new comic relief character named Pero, who was this new dog sidekick that Puss in Boots meets during his retirement. Watching the trailer, I thought, okay, this character could go in either direction, actually be very funny, or could get on my nerves. But luckily, I think this character went in the right direction and didn't feel like just another donkey. He's both hilarious, likable, and optimistic, but also oblivious to how tragic his backstory is. But he's not just there for the ride and comic relief, he does serve a purpose to Puss's arc to not be afraid when facing death. And I also want to mention one scene between him and Goldilocks and the Three Bears, where Pero just swears and insults them. That had me cracking up. Just when I saw that scene, I just thought, okay, I love this character. As for the two villains, one of them who was briefly in the trailers was Little Jack Horner, and he's hilarious from his lack of moral ambiguity, fairy tale weapons, and reason for being evil. And I definitely want to give credit to his voice actor for such an entertaining performance. And when I heard his voice, I just knew it sounded familiar. Then I looked on IMDb after I saw the movie and I said, oh, that was the same voice actor who voiced Spider-Ham in Spider-Verse, so no wonder his voice sounded familiar to me. You got a problem with cartoons? And now for the big guns. This big bad wolf, who is the personification of death. Oh my god, I love this villain. From the first time he shows up, with his chilling presence, sinister voice and design, choice of weaponry, red eyes, being a formidable and intimidating threat to Puss and playing a significant role in the film, and also his creepy and haunting whistle. Every time I heard it, it sent chills down my spine whenever he shows up. And I'm definitely not going to hear a whistle the same way again after watching Puss in Boots 2, I assure you. Just when I hear someone whistle, I'm like... And I could go on and on how amazing this villain is. He's honestly the best Shrek villain since the Fairy Godmother in Shrek 2, a top-tier DreamWorks villain, and one of my favorite villains of 2022. And whoever his voice actor was, I'll actually put his name down here. Please, voice more animated villains from now on. He was so great. And this film is hilarious that both kids and adults can enjoy. Kids can enjoy the slapstick animation, and there's also some kiddie humor here and there that luckily didn't bother me. But there's actually some great adult humor as well that they can enjoy. There's actually some great dark humor in this movie, including this montage of all of Puss's deaths, and even Little Jack Horner's henchmen, them dying. I was like, oh, I did not expect that. Oh my god. And even some mild swearing in this movie that was like, quite shocking to me. And some of the adult humor did kind of remind me of the adult humor in the first two Shrek movies, which I enjoyed. But mostly, I was surprised how mature and deep this film was. Focusing on Puss in Boots realizing that the fact he could die and his adventures have taken a toll on him. And that retirement might be his best option and his mortality. Now, I was surprised how maturely it was done and it was taken very seriously. And there is even a scene where Puss in Boots has an anxiety attack after meeting death. Definitely felt realistic to how a panic attack is and showing Puss in Boots' anxiety. And this sequel shines not just being very funny and entertaining throughout, but also having a surprising amount of depth and nuance in the story. Having strong character work that didn't feel rushed nor overstuffed in the story, and giving each character a reason for being there and serving a purpose. As for issues or nitpicks, I'd say one minor issue I have with Puss in Boots 2 is that there were a few times where the story was a little predictable. Just a few times in the story I knew where the story was going and this is going to happen then. In conclusion, Puss in Boots The Last Wish is not only the best film in the Shrek franchise since Shrek 2 and one of the top 10 best DreamWorks animation films, but it's a truly excellent sequel that exceeded my expectations and it's a vast improvement over its predecessor. It's very funny, vibrant, entertaining, surprisingly moving, but also has a great voice cast, a terrifying villain, and strong character work. I'm so happy to how much of a blast this movie was and surprised how much I loved it. Another thing I'm surprised to say, if they want to do a Shrek 5 or a Puss in Boots 3, since this movie's doing successfully with critics and it's doing very good at the box office, if they have a good idea and if the same creative team behind this could do Shrek 5, then I'm actually very excited for the future of Shrek. And knowing that Joel Crawford, one of the film's directors, is doing Kung Fu Panda 4 next year, I'm even more excited for Kung Fu Panda 4 now after this. And with his involvement, I'm hoping Kung Fu Panda 4 is as great as the first two. And now to grade it, I'm going to give Puss in Boots The Last Wish 4.5 stars out of 5. An A. Very satisfied that this film received a Best Animated Film Oscar nomination. Although I'm predicting Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio as the winner will and should win, this would be my runner-up for my favorite animated film of 2022 and definitely one of my favorite films of last year. If you haven't seen this movie yet and if it's still playing at a theater near you or if you want to check it out on video on demand, please go watch Puss in Boots 2 as soon as possible. Also, if you weren't impressed by the trailers thinking it didn't look great, please give this film a chance, believe the hype, because I think it's way better and more emotional than the trailers made it out to be. And it is coming out on Blu-ray and DVD in late February. I'll put the release date right here. Either way you want to watch it, please go watch it. It is absolutely fantastic. So I'd like to hear from you guys. What are your thoughts on Puss in Boots: The Last Wish if you've seen it? Do you agree? Disagree with my review? Or if you haven't seen it, are you looking forward to watching the film or not? Let me know below. Did you enjoy hearing my thoughts on this movie? If yes, please hit that like and subscribe button if you're new here. And don't forget that notification bell for my next upload in the future. It really means a lot. And until the next video, I'm Jack Benner and look forward to another movie review.